Welcome to the Costume Plot.
I'm JoJo Siu.
And I'm Sarah Tim. We're professional designers with a passion for costume design and the performing arts. Our podcast does contain spoilers.
We hope you'll join us every other week as we delve into the wonderful world of costume design in the Costume Plot. All right.
Hello. Welcome back to the Costume Plot.
We're so excited.
So today's a special episode because we have a special guest for the first time. JoJo and I know her professionally. She's the shop manager and resident costume witch at Fullerton College. And you might know her from her YouTube channel, Queen De Luxe. It's Bronwen Burton.
Hello,
welcome,
friends. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for being our first guest.
Thank you so much for doing this.
I'm super
really excited.
So we are going to be focusing on a movie today, but we also had a couple questions for our guest artist, which is something that will be a common theme for all of our guest artists as well. But we wanted to start with a show that Bronwen said she wanted to cover. So we're really excited to be talking about the show Dickinson today. Go ahead.
It's so interesting because, like, when I was talking to people about being guests, like, I originally envisioned our guest episodes as not even being about TV show or movies. But then when I would talk to people about it, they'll be like, well, I want to do this and I want to do this. And I'm like, oh, it makes sense. You want to do the show. Like, that makes sense.
That's what we've started.
Yeah, that's exciting, though, that people want to join us in our thing that we do. I'm excited. So anyway.
Yeah, I am super excited. This is I feel like Dickinson is one of my new obsessions. So
I'm so excited to hear about it.
Yeah.
You've definitely been talking about it for a while. And I finally got to see the first 2 episodes. But of course, I'm excited to hear about your thoughts on it now that you've seen the whole, now in season 2, right?
Yes. And I'm not even sure if they were slowly releasing them. So I forgot to check to see if they're all have been released or if there's still a couple more. But it's a super interesting show. I'm super into it, but I've been reading a lot of things online, and either people love it or they hate it. There's no in between.
It's kind of anachronistic, right? Like they're doing some modern stuff.
Super and super not anachronistic. So it's both. It's so weird.
People get really spicy about that.
Yeah,
they definitely do.
I'm super into it. So it was created by Lena Smith, who's a playwright, and she also has written for some TV. So I think that's why I'm enjoying it, since it's sort of got a playwrighty kind of thing happening. So it's definitely got some theater background that I think that's why I'm into it. Yeah. The costume designer is John Dunn, who is he did Vinyl and Boardwalk Empire. So he's done some big
I love
stuff.
that show.
And they had 40 people in their costume department. So it's kind of a
wow.
Yeah. Which I know, because when you guys were
really
talking about
size.
Bridgerton, how many people did they have on Bridgerton again?
I
It was
remember.
208 or something like that.
But this show is so much smaller than Bridgerton. So I was
Right.
wow, they have a lot of people working on it at any rate.
Well, Bridgerton, they did it. It was it took them 3 years or something, didn't it? It was in production for forever.
Okay.
in terms of building, it was only 5 months.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Then I was making that
It was
up.
a really, really short time period. I was 5 months. It's nothing.
Sorry, I don't have any of that information, but
That's okay.
and then so I read an article with the costume designer, and what did he say? He said, so Dickinson is a coming to age story about Emily Dickinson. So it's sort of based in reality, but then we don't have a whole bunch of information about Emily Dickinson. So there's certain things we know all the way through, and they hit those points, but then they're kind of making up the stuff that's in between.
Oh.
So, and telling that story, I guess, through the actual things that happened with storytelling. So it's super interesting. So when you look when I look at her history, they're hitting all those points. So it's fun. Like, now it makes me want to read, like, all about Emily Dickinson. So, I don't know.
This is going to make me want to watch the show for sure.
Right. So it's coming, but it, like, for me, it's all about the costumes. So that's why I started watching the show. Like, I'm not an Emily Dickinson fan. So, but here we are. I might become one.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So let's see. The costumes are deeply researched, so like they're really historically accurate. I was surprised because I thought they were going to be more anachronistic, but they're not. Like, I feel like they did play with some color, but they're pretty right on. When I get to pictures, I will show you. So he said that he wanted to sort of fix the warped idea that Americans have with the 1850s and 1860s, because that's when it takes place. Because that's when we have all of those sepia tone photographs from the Civil War. So a lot of people think of it as like this sort of dark and dingy like thing. But actually there's lots and lots of color that's happening during this time, because this is when the new dyes were becoming available. So there's lots of bright colors, and there's lots of plaid and like tone on tone and pattern with pattern is happening. So he really didn't want it to be gloomy. He wanted it to be exciting. So that's what he said about it. So I guess I can go into a little bit of history of Emily Dickinson. So she was born in 1830. She lived with a middle-class family. She has an older brother and a younger sister. So older brother Austin, younger sister Lavinia, and then a mom and a dad. And then her best friend is Sue, who is like her best friend and her love interest. So, yeah. And Sue ends up marrying her brother because of lots of reasons. But she ends up being an orphan with no money and nowhere to stay. So her brother ends up marrying her, and they live next door in a big old mansion. It's lovely.
Like you do.
So, like you do.
Oh, to be best friends with adjoining mansions.
Right.
Just a walk away.
But at any rate, the show is like weird, and I really like it. So I'm going to share my screen so you guys can start seeing.
We would love to.
I'm really excited about this show too. Like I said, I only just started watching the first 2 episodes, but now that you said the playwright is, a theater playwright, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. There's a lot of just really nice beats in the actual, just in the first 2 episodes, I think, that are very theatrical.
Yes.
So I'm excited.
So, I want to know what you think about it.
Yeah, it's definitely, and it's funny too, because I think I'm kind of like you. Once I started watching the show, I was kind of like, oh, is this really what her life was like? And I started going on a little rabbit hole of who was Emily Dickinson, and were these things accurate, and how much of this is actually in our, what's the right word? Like, how much of this do we actually know about her life? And even the white dress at the beginning, which, I'll let you talk a little bit more about. But I was like, oh, there's actually a story behind this.
Yeah. So here is the white dress. So she starts out in this white dress. So this is an actual picture of Emily Dickinson, and here's our actress.
Haley Steinfeld, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So they actually look a lot alike, or they've made her look like Emily Dickinson. So I think it's really nice to see. They got like the ugly middle part of the 1850s going, for sure. The hair is surprisingly right a lot of the time.
That's awesome.
She does have her hair down a lot, but it's okay. She's a free spirit. Mm-hmm. So the white dress, they have her start in this white dress because of this dress that is like an extant example. So it is her dress. She started wearing white at the end of her life, like almost exclusively, which is pretty weird for the period. But this one, of course, is older. It's like the end of her life, whereas we are talking about kind of like her mid-20s.
Was there a reason that she started wearing white?
Probably is, but I don't like...
We don't know.
I think I didn't get too far down that rabbit hole. Right. There was so much to research. Mm-hmm. So, but they would, like, in the show, they do like a seance and stuff for everywhere, where everyone wears white to the seance so they can be pure and connect with spirits and stuff. So it might have some spiritualism connected to it. But it's nice that, like, so they've basically taken the dress that Emily is wearing in the still and almost recreated it in white to sort of represent the white dress that she, or the white stuff that she ends up wearing at the end of her life. Mm-hmm. So I think that's nice. And it's really pretty. Let me see if I'll make this bigger for you guys. It's like, you can see, like, the gathering and the smocking.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Like, the details that they're doing.
Even the sleeves, there's a really nice detail on the sleeves, too.
Yeah, and it's like the detail that is in the original dress. They kind of, like, recreated that over here.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of
So
picks
beautiful.
up over the undersleeve. It is so pretty. And, like, this teeny weeny piping around the neck.
Ooh.
I'm, like, into all the, of course, the construction details.
Of course. I love
All
piping.
right. Me too.
It's so beautiful.
So that's what she starts out in. And then we got all her other people. I wanted to talk about Sue. So this is, like, Emily in her white dress. And then Sue, her last sister has died. Basically, her entire family dies slowly, one by one.
1850s, am I right?
Right. So she is in full mourning here, but she's super poor, so she doesn't have, like, a lot of different, like, the Victorian era has all these rules about, like, what you're supposed to be wearing when and what they're supposed to look like and how dark they are and all this stuff. But she basically wears this really dark navy blue dress the entire time because she doesn't have an extensive wardrobe. But this whole scene is really nicely shot. I don't know. Jojo, do you agree? Like, I love this whole scene.
I do love that whole scene. She's, like, in the tree.
Yeah.
Again, this is only in, like, the first episode. But this is when Emily's, like, in the tree, and then she comes in black, and she's in the tree in white.
Yeah. And this whole, I don't know. Like, you don't know that they're kind of lovers before this. So you just think that they're best friends, and she's consoling her, but also mad that she's going to be marrying her brother. And so, like, it's, like, really all this conflict is happening. And so it's really interesting to have Emily all in white and then Sue all in black. So this dress is lovely too. It's really hard to see all the details, but poor Sue.
Sue does have a really sad life.
She does. And here's a picture of the two of them together in real life.
So is it from real life that they were, like, in love?
They don't know for sure because we obviously weren't there, but there are a lot of letters. Like, she wrote her extensively. It's almost like she would write her a letter instead of walking across to go to her house. So there's, like, tons of letters of them corresponding.
I see.
And there are definite overtones.
Right.
So,
I think I also read that there was quite a few of her poems that were edited to, like, because a lot of them were dedicated to Susan. And then it was, like, edited out that they were dedicated because, you know, obviously that was
that whole thing was really interesting. Like, they didn't publish, like, her complete poems until 1955. So, like, all of her poems were published, but they were edited and certain things taken out. And so I guess it as respect for the family. So we didn't have her full poems until 1955, which I thought was interesting.
A whole century later.
I know. Crazy, right?
Pretty crazy.
So this is a picture of the main characters, sort of. So Emily in the red, Lavinia over here, so your younger sister. So she wears a lot of florals and ruffles. It's kind of like more of the, I guess, traditional Victorian gal in at least the first season. And then this is her brother Austin and Sue here. And Austin always, like, has the craziest 1850s hair, and I'm here for it.
I love that
So
kind of
great.
hair, the like rumpled poet hair, Byron thing. Yeah,
It's it kind of is, like, on all the guys because it was super popular at the time. So, but and they usually don't really go for it in, like, TV, and so it's really fun to see, like, it going full out. It's lovely.
It still looks very boyish and charming, and I feel like we're entering back into that kind of phase in our culture of appreciating that look.
That's true.
we talked with Emma Fraser, the writer, about Harry Styles and how he really looks sort of like a 19th century poet a lot of the time.
I think, we all have COVID hair too. Like, we all have a little bit more hair.
Right?
the length is no longer unacceptable, I guess.
I feel like I see my guy friends on Zoom for trivia once a week, and every week their hair is longer, and they all are looking like Lin-Manuel and Alexander Hamilton, like
just keep letting it
longer
grow
and longer.
out.
It's true. So, okay, let's see. All right, so this is it. The second episode? No, the first episode. Still, they introduce death because of this poem right here. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. So she actually talks about how she sees death all the time, and they go for carriage rides and they talk and hang out. So in the show, they actually have a like spectral carriage that comes to pick her up, and this is her imaginary dress that she wears to go see death in. So a lot of the show is like in her imagination. Yeah, Sarah's mouth is standing wide open.
I need to watch this.
Isn't
I
it
know,
gorgeous?
just the first 2 episodes, I was like, what?
It's so good. I'm glad you're liking it because it is super weird. But I am
love
so
weird.
into it.
I need more
So-
things to be weird.
This does a good balance of like really, again, I think like Bronwen said, honoring the story. And because we have so little information, there is so much for them to kind of run with. But they do a lot of really cool. And again, I think Bronwen and I have had this conversation a few times about like the difference between this kind of anachronism and like the Bridgerton anachronism, where this show, I feel like they kind of intentionally, like you kind of accept that this world is not, it's like a weird in between of the period and modern. Because I think one of the things actually I told Bronwen a while back was that with Bridgerton, all the music that they played in the background was like modern music, but played with classical instruments, which
Yep.
I'm not a huge fan of that, but maybe that's just because I've had classical training and I feel like that needs to stay there. But that's my opinion. But with this one, Bronwen had mentioned that like all the music was very intentionally like modern and contemporary. And that was actually one of the first things that I was listening for, Bronwen, when I was watching the first 2 episodes. I was like, yes, this is a good balance of matching the modern with the period. Like, I can still get into the period, but I understand that it's with modern language and modern slang and modern, music that they've incorporated into that. So I do love that about this show, and I think that's one of the things that makes it so charming, is that you're still able to enjoy the story while still using a contemporary lens.
Yeah, and there's a lot of contemporary language that happens also. So like all the young people on the show end up using very contemporary language, which is interesting since we're like then like putting on top of that totally Emily Dickinson's poems like layered on top of that. It's super interesting, and I dig it all the time. I don't know. They're like they also project her poems in her handwriting on the screen as she's either thinking them or saying them out loud. And it to connect, so you have like a visual and the sound that it's making. So it's I'm loving it. But at any rate, this dress is so gorgeous I can't even handle it. So
I love it.
Such luscious fabric.
it is. They said it was charmeuse in this Vogue article. So
Oh my gosh.
Ooh. Yeah, I love the upper part of the bodice too.
it is pleated so nicely. Yeah, so it's like super tiny little pleats all the way up.
Is that Wiz Khalifa?
Yes, he's death. He's like so cool, and so
That's amazing.
he looks.
I love the way they portrayed death too.
He is so perfect. Like
He looks a little bit like Dr. Facilier from Princess and the Frog.
a little bit.
I can see that.
It's a little more less cartoony. Like
Yes.
yeah. I mean,
The top hat was giving me that vibe.
yes, and maybe the little green glasses. I guess. I don't know. But yeah, he's very dapper, and the
looks
carriage
great.
itself is beautiful too. So every time the carriage comes, I'm like, yes. Okay, so what else do we need to talk about? The ball. So they have a house party where all of their friends come over in ball gowns, because like you do. The parents go out of town for the weekend or the night or something, and so like all of her friends come over and they're like hanging out. So this is everybody in their ball gowns, which are like, look how accurate they are. I'm always shocked.
So beautiful.
Those are really pretty.
Right?
I do also love that they've kind of placed the mean girl in this very specific color. So the girl in the green is kind of like the mean girl of this season.
At least in the first
you can
season.
tell from her stance too, but I think this was the last episode I watched.
Okay.
Was their ball scene.
It's a really interesting episode because they end up like, she has that full, Emily has a full like moment where she is seeing a bee and she dances with it. Like it's a hallucination.
Because they take opium.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So full hallucination in the middle of their living room. I don't know. It's crazy. So they're dressed to the nines at this little house party. So, and this mean girl is like, she has an interesting backstory. So she's in love with Austin, the brother, and they end up not getting married because he marries Sue, and she's kind of sad about it. So.
Very sad about it.
And then her husband dies. She ends up having a baby, and her husband dies, of course, because 1850s, and then
Everybody died.
So in this episode, they're doing like a full-on Victorian like line dance, and then it moves into like hip hop dancing at the like halfway through as the night gets
they're
crazier.
like twerking in it or something, aren't they? At some point.
How do you twerk with all those skirts on?
No problem, man.
I know.
How do you
great.
like? You can't even see your
It's like
booty under
they're
her skirt.
twerking, and then I think they're also doing the doogie. I don't know.
The Dougie?
Yes.
Teach me how to Dougie.
Sorry, I
That one?
totally said that wrong. I'm born in the wrong century,
The
Sarah.
Doogie Howser, you know?
So Sarah, I was like, I wanted to bring this whole thing up, but I didn't want to like name all the dances wrong. So thanks, JoJo, for doing
So
that
I did it
me.
for you, Bronwen.
Thank you so much. So I don't look so old and
Oh my goodness.
Well, I have no excuse either because I'm like, I never learned the Dougie, but like,
I honestly couldn't tell you what the Dougie is. I just know that it's a song and I know it's a dance. Is it like this one? I don't know.
it's gonna be
something
good for
like that. I don't know. I don't even know how to pronounce it right. So you know,
All right. So here's
we're
Emily
not on the same page.
Sorry. This is what Emily is wearing at that in that scene in that episode.
Pretty,
it's blue,
pretty.
isn't it pretty? It's like cartridge pleated and it has all these ruching
that
up here. Ugh. And then her sister wears it in season 2 as like a hand-me-down.
Love that.
Right? So I thought that was
So
super
realistic.
so realistic. It's so cute.
It's awesome.
It's cool seeing that up close too, because you can see how it's like they've clearly arched each row, even across the sleeves.
That
like,
looks hard to do.
For sure. For sure. It's really lovely.
so detailed.
And then towards the end of the season, the circus comes to town.
Oh.
And she doesn't end up going, and she ends up having another, like a dream sequence thing where she ends up being in the circus, just as like an escapism to everything that's happening in her own life. So, but this is her and Lavinia coming and being like, "Dad, we have to go to the circus." But look at
I
these.
love those sweaters.
Aren't they adorable? I can't even.
So cute.
So cute.
So she wears this sweater
Makes me want to
repeatedly.
knit something.
I know. I think they're crocheted, technically.
Oh yeah, actually you're right. That is
But-
crochet.
It's adorable.
I love that they like recycle costumes. That's so like
Yeah.
it's so correct. Like
Yeah, you'd only have a certain amount of dresses. It's not like you're going to have like an entire, like we are today, having like
Right.
drawers and drawers of stuff. You would have
Yep.
just a few things. So things do recycle over and over. And she wears that sweater a lot as when the season changes to colder. So, and this is the dress she's wearing underneath, and it has it's really pretty trim running down, and all of the paisley dresses she wears are so pretty.
Yeah.
that's cute.
Ooh, that's a really lovely shade of red too.
Yeah. She kind of toggles between blue and red depending on her mental state. So if she's feeling really good about herself, she's in red, and if she's kind of down on herself, it's blue.
What an interesting emotional like visual.
Right? So
That's rad.
Right? So this is the corset she ends up wearing when she goes and she's in the circus. And they actually have a little fitting picture of them figuring out all the tattoos, which I thought was interesting.
Cool.
Oh, whoa. That's
cool.
pretty cool.
Right? And that's like, in this episode, she's just sort of feeling like a freak, right? Like, you know, her father doesn't get it, and she really wants to just be a writer, and they want her to be like a traditional Victorian lady, and it's not in her bones. It's just, she's always writing poetry, and she just can't stop herself, so she's just feeling like she really just belongs in the freak show and not in the house. So this is her little, it's so cool. I love these little striped acrobats on the side.
Oh, yeah.
I really do love circus wear. Any kind of like circus movie, I just enjoy how people like reinterpret the circus each time.
Me too.
In every era. Like every time.
It's really
I do
fun.
love that.
It's kind of sad because this is a very moment thing at the end, and you're like, wait, I need to look at all of those details. It's not, I just want to pause it, and there's so many fabulous costumes happening in this entire scene, but
That's usually how it is.
I know, right?
You know, the 2 seconds on screen.
And there's one episode where they dress up like boys to go to a lecture. They look so cute.
Oh, my gosh.
So cute.
I love all the textures that they like sort of layered on top of each other. Mm-hmm. I don't know. The clothes just don't stop. It just kind of just keeps on going forever. Everybody looks awesome.
I feel like I need to start this tonight. Like, I'm so excited to watch this now.
Okay. Well, this is, I think, the show to watch. So, and this is Sue when she gets married at the very end of the season. She just looks so stinking pretty. It's ridiculous.
I love
Look at
the
that veil. It's so beautiful.
Look at this necklace. I mean, I can't.
Gorge.
Super gorge. There are some really lovely bonnets that I just want to like sort of shout out to, like, if it looks like they were built. So
Is that Jane Krakowski?
it is.
It is.
I know.
I'm such a fan of her.
There's lots of sort of like star cameos that happen. So I don't want to. Now that you guys are going to start watching it, I don't want to like. So fun to see.
I know. I was pleasantly surprised when I saw her as the mom. I was like, oh, wait, what?
I love her. Also, I met her when I saw She Loves Me on Broadway, and she was so nice. She was so nice.
Ooh.
She's
great.
a true star.
Yeah, and I feel like this is a very different part for her. Like, she's usually sort of like glamorous, and she's very pious and kind of like closed and like not fabulous.
But there's still really funny moments that she has, which is one of the things I love about her. Like,
Yeah, it's very
she has
well
that
developed
very like
character.
sarcastic, witty humor.
She's a great like comedic actress. So I feel like doesn't get a lot of recognition for how good she is.
She's so good. But like there is the straw work on this hat. It's braided and it has like straw flowers that are 3-dimensional that are worked in, and then the
Ooh.
lace on the inside.
Ugh.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Good for them for doing beautiful bonnets. I feel like bonnets, we've talked about bonnets and how like often
We have.
period films just like either completely ignore them or it's just kind of like an afterthought.
Totally. And it's like they don't put a lot of bonnets on Emily, but I think that's you know, obviously on purpose, but everyone else is wearing bonnets, so it's just to set her apart.
Yeah, it makes her look like more of a free spirit and different from everybody.
Yeah, they do that really well. She definitely stands out in like every scene that she's in, pretty much the entire show.
Yep. All right, I think that's all I wanted. I mean, the costumes do just go on and on. There are, I think, in season 2, there's some, they go to the opera, and so everybody's in ball gowns.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And
Gorgeous.
Emily's ball gown is blue velvet and gold. It is so beautiful.
Ooh.
It's probably in this ball gown
I
section.
can't wait.
Yeah,
I
but
love velvet.
so at any rate, I don't see if there's anything else I wanted to mention. I mean,
I think you did a really good
Okay,
job.
I
do
of
too.
paring
You
down,
did great.
Considering.
okay. I mean, there's so many beautiful
Yeah.
clothes every moment of every show. So
You understand our struggle now. Like,
Yes,
we
I
have
do.
to edit ourselves down.
it's still
Yep.
way too many. It's still way too many. But
Always, especially with TV shows.
Oh, yeah.
Because every episode can be its own, like...
I've been thinking about it,
costumes.
like, my favorite TV shows, and I'm like, I really want to cover Outlander, and I was like, how about I just pick, like, one episode, like, that I just think is, like,
Yeah.
really a good example.
I think you have to for a TV show, because otherwise it just gets overwhelming, especially for things like that where she goes into so many different like time periods and like areas and locations and interacts with so many different people. There's just no possible way.
Yeah, that show would be impossible.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, great job.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Dickinson.
Bronwen. I'm excited to watch the rest of it. Like I said, with just 2 episodes, it's been interesting just looking at the costumes and seeing everything all together. Like I think you mentioned last time, like production value is a big part of it, and like you can definitely tell they've really paid attention to all the details on this show.
Yeah,
I think they did a really good job.
You know that picture I showed of her dress, like you can see what her room actually looked like, and they really did like make her room on the set look exactly like the room in the photographs. So
That's so cool.
They've really, really researched everything, and it's kind of nice to have the anachronistic be language and music and where the visuals are very like anchored in the time period. So you don't feel like you're leaving the time period, really.
Yeah. I think that's what makes it so accessible too, because like we're living in such an audio, I mean, of course with the podcast, but also just in general, it's such an audio world that to give us that grounding of the contemporary and what we listen to while still being able to see a visual from the time period, I feel like makes us connect to the time period a little bit better.
Yeah.
Than if we were trying to like do this weird mashup.
Yeah, like you were saying about Bridgerton, how it's basically like string quartet covers, and I appreciated like what they were trying to do, but I personally don't love like a string quartet cover of a pop song because it doesn't sound good. It sounds like if you're like, I think one of them was Bad Guy by Billie Eilish, and it's like this song is really good, but like there's not really a way to convey this song with only strings, like unless you have a really good arranger. And I feel like it was just kind of like, it doesn't sound like classical music, it sounds like something else, and it kind of took me out of it a little bit.
That's exactly how I feel about classical covers, because it's, you know, especially with things like Bad Guy, there's such a slam poetry kind of aspect to it that I think you just can't get with classical music, because it's just a different medium. So yeah, I think that's what I love about this show, is that they let the music just be contemporary and let that kind of feel what's happening in the scene, because you still get that sense of, you know, this is a contemporary feeling without having to look contemporary in terms of historical accuracy.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Woo.
Thanks, Bronwen. Great job.
You're welcome.
Hopefully not too scary as our first guest artist.
I don't think so.
No pressure.
No pressure.
So me and JoJo know what you do, but do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about like what you do in the realm of theater, like, or about your YouTube channel, or like
Sure.
what have you been up to?
I know, it's a lot.
Promotion.
So I sort of, I guess, I don't know how far back I want to start. I guess I went to school to be I have a costume design degree from Cal Arts, and then ended up sort of not liking just being a costume designer, and I really wanted to build stuff because that's really what I love. And so I ended up working in different shops, starting out as like a stitcher and then ending up as a cutter draper. And now I run the costume shop at Fulton College where JoJo and I work. And then the pandemic happened, and I had kind of started a YouTube channel sort of on the side because I wasn't seeing kind of the YouTube stuff that I wanted to see. I wanted people to know the right ways to do things and that they're accessible and easy to do. And so I started that sort of on the side, which was really actually great because then pandemic hit and we ended up needing to teach people how to do this stuff through Zoom or whatever. So I kind of had a leg up on teaching far away.
Yeah, you didn't really have to teach yourself how to record yourself doing things because you were already doing it. That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty awesome. So that's kind of, and then so my YouTube channel is pretty, I don't know, it's silly and I do some silly things, but there is a lot of educational stuff happening as well. I try to make it as fun as possible. So you should check it out.
I love your YouTube videos. I think they're adorable.
Aw, thanks.
They're great. And seeing the final product, too. Like, all the stuff you've built has been so cool to watch.
Yeah, I hope so. And then, I just entered in the Foundation Revealed contest, so we'll see how that goes.
I saw that.
Yeah. It's a big,
So exciting.
worldwide competition, so we'll see. I probably won't win, but, you know, it's fun to enter and at least have, like, a goal and something to do in
Yeah.
these times. So,
Totally. Hey, who knows? You might win.
I don't know.
Who knows?
I'm so rooting for you, Bronwen.
Thanks. I think regular people get to vote, so at least you should check out what everybody worldwide
Yeah,
has
yeah.
done.
Vote. I'll vote for you.
I want to vote.
I don't think they're technically up, but like it's going to be on the Foundations Revealed website in March. So,
And we will post that on our
Yeah.
social medias when it's around so that people can vote for you. How about
that'd be great.
We can definitely do that.
Or they can vote for whoever they want. But.
that? Well, yeah.
But vote for
We would
Bronwen
prefer that they vote for you.
if you're
well,
listening to
thanks.
this podcast.
I'm sorry. We don't make the rules. It's a legal requirement that you now vote for Bronwen since you're listening to this podcast.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, so funny. Bronwen's been teaching me a lot too, even of recording and how to do all of that and teach online.
It's bananas. It's been crazy, but fun.
I mean, yeah, I know a lot of teachers. My mom is a vocal teacher and a choir teacher, and she has been having to teach like vocal ensemble over Zoom, and she's
Yeah.
really been adapting too. So it's like everybody's learning a whole new set of skills.
Yeah. I think
Absolutely.
it's been kind of awesome, like in a way. Like it's really a lot of work and like really different way of doing things, but it has been good in like examining how we teach and sort of fine tuning what we're teaching and stuff. So I think it's been good on the most part. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's been real rough for our industry, but
Yeah.
For sure.
obviously,
Yeah.
But
So, what is your history like with theater? We want to know if there's like one specific show that maybe you saw when you were young, or like the first show that you worked on that made you go, "Oh, this is definitely what I want to do."
I think this is an interesting question because
Thank you.
so I grew up. My parents were artists that made liturgical vestments. So, so liturgical vestments, a fancy word for like the stuff that hangs in churches on the altar, like the altar cloths and stuff. And it was in the 70s when they were allowing women to be preachers and ministers and stuff. And they didn't have, no one was selling robes for ladies. So my mom started making robes for women, and then they sort of ended up doing the art part and the liturgical vestment part. So I grew up in a basic like factory kind of setting where there was always silk and stuff in the trash cans, and I would put things together, just crafty. And I was always into costumes and clothing, and I thought for a while I'd be like a fashion designer or something. But since my parents were kind of artists, they always took us to different things that they could take us to. So we ended up going to a Peter Pan show when we were pretty little. And I remember it because my mom was actually crying when Tinkerbell died.
Oh,
I know. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, you know, hard-hearted me, I guess. I don't know. But I also was like watching the audience, because that moment is so strange in like theatrical, I don't know, experiences where like the whole audience kind of has to buy into what's happening.
yep.
So I think that was the first moment like that I felt that like whatever was happening on stage was actually affecting people, and that we're having a communal response to that. Mm-hmm. So, which is weird, kind of existential, like 7-year-old thing to be having. But I think that was the first moment that like theater, how important theater is. So, and then I ended up working with a children's theater group doing mostly building and helping with that, like behind the scenes. So that's kind of what, and then I ended up going to college and stuff. So there's not like a direct line from that show to theater, but I think all of my love of history and sewing and all that stuff sort of like ended up coming together in like, this is what you should be doing. Mm-hmm. So
I love that.
Yeah, definitely having that history is great.
Yeah, I do feel like a lot of people who work in theater, it wasn't like I've known I wanted to do this forever and then I just went and did it. It's like we all kind of have like a meandering path where we try this and we try that, and then it just kind of like we eventually arrive at theater and we go, oh, here it is. Like, this is what I want.
Yeah.
But it takes us a while to figure that out.
Yeah. And then I tried some film, and it was just, the pacing was strange, and it just felt, I don't know. Theater is so much better for me, I would say.
I completely agree. I've been on a couple of sets, and they weren't even like professional sets. They were like small films, and I was like, this is the most stressful thing I've ever experienced in my life. Like,
yeah, they were just sort of badly organized. Like, you're like prepared for the thing they're going to shoot, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we're going to shoot this. And you're like, but we're not prepared for that. We're prepared for this. So, yeah, it was very stressful and
constantly changing.
Yeah, a lot of waiting around for, like, I could have been preparing for this all day if I had known.
Right,
Whatever.
exactly.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's like intense boredom followed by like the most stressful 30 minutes of your life, and then another 5 hours of intense boredom.
Right.
Hurry up and wait is basically the entire motto.
Yep.
And mostly theater, you're just like busy the entire time. So no sitting around. There's no sitting around in theater. So
except for during tech.
That's
Unless
true.
it's just one of those shows.
It's true. There are some techs where I hardly sit in the house at all because I'm just running around like a headless chicken.
Yeah.
Yep.
That does happen.
Very true. Well, thanks, Bronwen. It's cool hearing that. I mean, because I know you've talked to me a little bit about some of your background, but it's cool hearing the full story.
Well, I'm glad. I feel like I've not had like the most normal childhood or whatever, and I guess that's how you end up in theater for sure.
That's a very fair point. Do you want to tell us a bit about maybe like your favorite show you've ever worked on, if you have one? I
always say Edward Tulane, that was at South Coast Repertory. And I don't really know why. I guess because it's not like I got to fit actors. I made tiny little clothes for this rabbit that was in the show. He's kind of like the star of the show, but he is a stuffed rabbit that was about, 2 feet high or something? So it was like making doll clothes and getting paid for it. So I think that was like my 7-year-old heart being like, this is the best! So, but, and I've made tons of like gorgeous dresses and fun stuff, but that is the thing that like kind of gave me the most joy.
And you've talked about this before, Bronwen, but I know you really wanted to work for Jim Henson for a while with the Muppets.
Yes,
too.
I did.
I mean,
I
Slash
want
still
to
do.
too.
Still do, yes.
Me too, Bronwen. Yeah, every time. So my family and I all watch the Muppet Christmas Carol together on Christmas every year, and every time I stare at the tiny clothes and I'm like, I want to make them. I want to do it. And then every year around Christmas, I end up on the Jim Henson website looking to see if they have job openings, and they never do.
They never do. Yeah, and the Muppet Christmas Carol has beautiful costumes.
It does, and they actually it's not like it's a little false front vest with like a false shirt underneath. It's like real. They've layered all the actual clothes. They're wearing everything that they should be wearing for the period, and it's all beautiful.
It's almost
and it's
like more
wool and
historically
silk.
accurate than some things you see today on real people.
Honestly, like I think Rizzo wears like this little smocked
he does
shirt,
yes,
and you can see all the hand smocking, and it's all super tiny, and you're just like, oh my god, this is like mind blowing. So at any rate, I would love to work for the Muppets.
We should do that.
It's not one of the things I've done. I've done a lot of weird things in my life, but that is not one of them. So.
I know. Can we just start a small company and just like market? Just be like, hey, we already do this, so like just hire us as a team.
I actually I know some people who did some work with All Puppet Players in Fullerton, and for a while I was like, can I please, they were gonna do like a puppet version of Pride and Prejudice, and I was like, I need to be involved in this, and then I don't think they ever ended up doing it, and it was like a huge disappointment to me because I wanted to make puppet clothes so bad. I was like, I will do this for free. I desperately need to do this.
Who knew that like so many customers are like desperate to work at Jim Henson?
In small scale.
I know. Well, it's fun because like it's a different shaped body than we're used to.
Yeah.
It's tiny, and everybody loves tiny things.
Yeah.
And then they can't complain. Like
Yeah,
the doll or the puppet can't talk back to you and tell you that their neck is too itchy, you know?
Right. It's kind of the best of all worlds, right?
Exactly.
So funny. I never even thought about it that way, but that's so true.
I don't know. I guess if you
I'm
were
working with an inanimate object that doesn't talk back to me.
I'm sure Miss Piggy would talk back to you.
Yeah, yes. I wonder if that makes me wonder how like Muppet fittings are run. Like, does the person who is the person operating it while you're doing the fitting, like, just to see how
talking back to you
moves? Yeah, and like, can they help themselves from like talking while they're?
I'm sure they can't. Yeah,
puppet people are like that.
so funny.
But you know, we all know puppet people.
We all know puppet people.
Some of the weirdest, and I mean this in the most loving way, some of the weirdest people I've ever worked with are the puppet people.
Okay. I don't know if I've worked with a lot of. I don't think I've worked with any.
I was gonna say, I think
people.
both of you have worked with a lot more puppet people than I've worked with.
We were doing a lot of puppets at SCR for some reason. We did Amos and Boris, and like they made a giant whale puppet for that. I mean, it was more of like a vehicle, but they called it a puppet, you know, and it had to have like a mouth that opened and stuff. And then we did Mr. Popper's Penguins, which had a bunch of penguins in it.
Yeah.
And then I did Flora and Ulysses. I was the assistant costume designer on that, and the squirrel was a puppet. So I feel like I've worked with a fair amount of puppet designers. And they're always really weird.
Okay. Well, that's fun, though.
Good to know.
I always like working with the weirdos, so that's
I mean,
I would fit in, you know.
we click together.
That is the beauty of theater, is that like it's almost like joining the circus, right? Where it's like a bunch of misfits coming together.
Exactly. Exactly.
Very cool. I don't know if I had any other specific questions, because I know we're nearing our time as well. I'm running at 52 minutes on my time right now.
That's pretty good, I think. We usually like to stay to an hour-ish. You know?
Okay.
It's easy to get excited and then just get carried away.
Yeah.
Especially when there's beautiful costumes to be looked at.
I know. And every episode is honestly like so well put together and everything. Like I have favorite episodes that don't necessarily have like my favorite costumes in them. So it was hard to choose like what to talk about. So
yeah, I feel like the show also keeps it like it keeps the storyline moving, but there's always something in each scene. Like there's not a lot of like dead space.
yeah.
If that makes any sense, because I feel like sometimes, especially with historical period shows, sometimes they focus so much on like the dead space and like the waiting that you're just kind of like, why is this in here?
Right.
Like I'm just sitting watching nature happen for like 10 minutes.
That is definitely not happening in the show.
Yeah, definitely not.
I do feel like some period pieces have like a pacing issue.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like Jane Austen, like they're often just waiting for a letter, right? Like that's part of the book.
Yeah,
So-
it's true.
But you know, like I feel like, so I guess this is the best example, but like the new Pride and Prejudice, like there's very intentional reason for why she has those like waiting periods. But then there's other versions of Pride and Prejudice where I'm just like, okay, we just watched them walk across the courtyard for 10 minutes. Like, let's get to the other side of the courtyard already. Like,
Pick up the pace.
It's hard to get away from our modern pacing, right? Like,
Right.
true.
Yeah, we're used to a lot of instant gratification and like 10-minute YouTube videos. So
yeah, definitely.
true.
I think it's hard.
you got to find
yeah,
a
I
way
do
to get
feel like-
people to not stare at their phone while they're watching your show, right?
Right.
That's true.
And that's interesting you say that. Dickinson's I never pick up my phone when I'm watching that show.
I feel like that's as good a testament as any to how good it is, you know?
Yeah, very true.
But I will say it's not for everybody. So
For the weirdos,
it's definitely for the weirdos.
It's for us weirdos.
But yes. I definitely, like I said, I'm only 2 episodes in, but I'm really enjoying just everything about it right now.
Oh, I'm so glad. Because I was
Thank you for the
wondering.
suggestion, Bronwen.
Okay, good. It's nothing worse than being like,
Well,
this
you
is the
had
best
raved
show.
it so much.
Oh, yeah. And then everyone else is like, no, this show is terrible. I don't understand why you like it.
Well, if they don't like it, that's on them. That's not your fault.
No, it's not. But
So do you want to tell people where they can follow you on social media if they feel so inclined?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram at Queen De Luxe So, and then on YouTube at Queen De Luxe, or you can look up Bronwen Burton. I don't know if you guys have swipe up yet on your Instagram.
No, we sure don't.
I don't either.
But we can tag you. We'll tag Bronwen on Instagram, and we'll also have it in the episode description, her social media and stuff.
Okay.
Where
and I'll probably post it on YouTube as well, so we might be able to just link it to your actual YouTube page.
Yeah, so if you want to learn some sewing, you can check out my channel.
Or just watch her make cute vintagey clothes.
Yes, or
it's
some
pretty great
historical things too, way back there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thanks, Bronwen.
Thank you so much for joining us. We had so much fun.
Oh, good. I did too. And my dogs didn't bark, which was like a miracle.
I know.
Yay!
The entire hour.
I forgot about your dogs momentarily. Good dog.
That's a good sign.
I was waiting for them. We're going to have to stop our recording or whatever. You're going to have to do tons of editing. But so I'm glad. Yay.
Yay.
I know. It worked out very well.
Good job, puppies.
Good job, puppies.
Okay, well,
perfect.
Thanks for listening to the Costume Plot.
We're looking forward to next month where we'll be sharing a couple more movies. We're going to go back to covering movies again, but I know we're going to have more guest episodes in the near future.
Most definitely.
So thanks for joining us.
Okay, bye-bye.
Signing out.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to The Costume Plot. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Costume Plot. If you have a question, comment, or a movie suggestion, you can email us at thecostumplot@gmail.com.
Our theme music is by Jesse Tim, and our artwork is by Jojo Siu. Please rate and review us wherever you listen to your podcasts.